Hey people, what's going on? Hope you're well. Welcome to another episode of Road to Empire podcast. Now, we're coming towards the end of 2022. I hope it's been a fruitful year for yourselves. It's been challenging for me, some tough challenges, and also some great advancements in my work, and really had the opportunity to grow as an individual in terms of mindset, personality, character, but also in terms of business growth as well. Actually, having one of the best years in terms of business and turning over revenue and so on. So it has been quite interesting 2022. So we're moving into 2023 and we need to take a look at how we can develop and build ourselves for the coming year. Now, if you're listening or watching on YouTube, please do like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, and click the notifications bell. And if you're listening on Anchor, on podcast, then please do consider supporting the channel. Okay, so I want to take a look at in terms of when you have a side hustle, a business, or when you're generating income from a primary job. Maybe you've got 2 or 3 jobs, because I know a lot of people in my locality or people that I know in my network. Some of them, they'll work, for example, a normal job. So it might be like a 9-5 or whatever in an office or a factory. And then in the evenings, later in the day, they'll go and drive Uber, or they'll go and do takeaway deliveries, Uber Eats, that kind of stuff. So they're making extra cash, extra dough, extra, guala, trying to, make money and basically survive. So obviously we know we're living through a cost of living crisis, economic recessions, all sorts of stuff happening in economies around the world. And we've seen inflation attacking currency, money, and the value of money, which essentially is eroding the value of your money in your pocket, meaning that you can't buy the same thing that you could have bought maybe a year, 2 years before at the same price because of inflation. So some of you might be at the stage where you're already involved in a side hustle. Maybe you're making a couple of grand a month, or 10k a month, or more even. Or maybe you're working for somebody else at the moment and you're looking to set something up. Regardless of where you're at, I think even for myself, I wish I'd had this education and knowledge at a much younger age, because then I would have considered investing and the whole concept and idea about this much earlier on in terms of compared to where I am in my life now. But unfortunately, because we don't have many mentors or those who are self-educated or educated around finance, around money, a lot of people around us in the early days, like your family, your parents, yes, they might want good for you, but most of the time they're not educated when it comes to things like money, like currency, like investing to build generational wealth and those type of things, right? Very few people are aware and clued up about this, right? So we can't turn back the hands of time, but what we can do is start to prepare in terms of where we are right now and look exactly where we are. So what I would say is take a look at your income currently, right? Just get a spreadsheet, and if you haven't got access to spreadsheet or something like that, just use a pen and paper, write it down, right? Most people will have a laptop or some sort of computer device these days. So use these tools and actually try to work out what your income and expenditure is, right? So you look at your outgoings and your income and so on. So let's say you're making, $2,000 a month or £2,000 or euros a month, whatever it might be, right? Let's say your outgoings are maybe 1,200 or let's just say 1,200, right? So that's like 60% or something of your total income is basically spent on outgoings. That could be covering food bills, heating, energy, electric bills, other kinds of bills, taxes that you might have to pay in terms of that income that you're making. So you're left over with 800 pounds or dollars or whatever it might be. So you might then, you might have a leak in the boiler. You might have a problem, maybe there's a leak in the roof, maybe something's wrong, you need to change your car tires. Something always seems to be popping up. Maybe you need to buy some school clothing for your kids, whatever it might be. Something always seems to pop up, all the time, kind of thing. So you might have to spend, extra few hundred here and there, and so on. But generally speaking, you need to think about how you can actually invest and build your kind of wealth. So this episode is about investing in as a beginner, and just a few ideas to consider and contemplate going into 2023. However, just a quick disclaimer, I don't provide any kind of financial advice. If you do want financial advice, always seek professional advice from financial experts. So this is just my opinion and what I think in terms of ideas and experiences that I've had personally. So things I'm talking about is things that I've been involved directly myself. So I've got experience directly, individually as a person, through lived experience and so on. So, you look at investment, you look at people like Warren Buffett, right? Everyone's heard of Warren Buffett. He's one of the richest people in the world, multi-billionaire, multi-billionaire. He's been investing for decades. He's got shares in big companies like Coca-Cola, Berkshire Hathaway and all this kind of stuff. So he's been able to invest carefully over a long period of time and basically get large returns, right? And he's a multi-billionaire and he's one of the best known investors. But even he's losing money now in this cost of living crisis. So some of the things that you can consider, or what, in my opinion, what I have actually done in terms of looking at investing, is a few different things. However, I just want to talk about the mindset as well, because previously I never even think about investing or anything like that. You got a bit of money, go party, blast it, go chill with the lads, go out, just basically blaze it and blast it on, enjoying yourselves, living a hedonistic, Epicurean lifestyle. Now, that was not obviously the best way to spend my money, and it wasn't very beneficial for me, because if I think about it, if I look back, for example, in uni days, what it's like in uni. You're spending most of the time partying and enjoying life. But if I look back in terms of the people that were around me at that time, the people that you think are your friends or people that you think you ride or die with, all this kind of stuff, 99% of them are nowhere to be seen today. They're not even in our lives, or, hardly any kind of communication. Some of those people, you don't know where they're gone or what happened to them, or where they're at in today's kind of life, or, what they're up to, what kind of career or ventures they were into, because there's no communication. Obviously, at that time, you don't realize that, and you don't understand the value of true friends and associates, because there's a difference between friends and associates. People tend to get these two mixed up, but a friend is somebody probably you normally like. Now, I've got less friends than I've got fingers on my hand that I can count as true friends who will be there for me in times of need. But when it comes to associates, obviously I know, hundreds of people all over the world, locally, different cities and even around the world. I know people, but they're not friends. They're associates. They're people that I know. And the truth is that when you need somebody and someone that's going to be there for you, someone's got your back, that's what I call a friend. So I would, really advise you to consider carefully what you might consider to be a friend or not, because it's something important and it can have a big impact on your life, especially when it comes to considering the people that you surround yourself with. Again, that influence can dictate the avenue that you take in life. So that's something to contemplate on. But yeah, in terms of my investment journey, as I started to increase my income and grow my revenue, I had some money there. And I was at this time watching YouTube videos, reading material literature, listening to podcasts, audio, whatever I could to increase my knowledge around investing, entrepreneurship, business, online kind of world. I'm self-taught. I learned everything by myself. Most of this stuff was not really taught in kind of an educational setting. There were references to it. There was a lot of theoretical stuff, for example, in uni on the business degrees and all that. But in terms of practically and in terms of contemporary, what works today, and the online space, it just wasn't enough kind of material being taught. So I had to go out there and learn myself. And the best way you can learn is just Google, jump on YouTube. You can watch videos for free. And if you've got a little bit of money, you can invest in yourself. The best investment you can make is in yourself. So spend 50 quid, 20 quid, 100 quid, $100, whatever it might be, and get some materials, get an online course, get some books, literature, and start to read, start to learn. And if you're totally broke and you haven't got anything, there's no excuse. You can just go to the local library and read a book at the library, or you can borrow a book and take it home and read it and learn from that. And you can watch YouTube videos and all that, and you can get some basic kind of stuff. And then when you want to go deeper, then you can find yourself a mentor, a coach, somebody that you can speak to, get consultancy sessions and all that kind of stuff. And basically that will cut the time in terms of learning and in terms of moving the needle towards success. Because a lot of people you'll say, bloody hell, he's successful, isn't he? Or she's successful, or whatever it might be. But there might be not an overnight success, what most people think or perceive. A person might be a success, somebody who's taken 10 years, 10 years success journey that you are not aware of because you don't have enough knowledge about the person. Okay, so all these things come into play. Okay, so some of the things that I then, invested in with the money that I made was, one of the things I could say is gold, right? So, today in every part of the world, we have money. And money is normally in the paper format, or recently in the last few years in the UK, United Kingdom, those paper currency notes like £10 note, £5 note, £20 note, £50 note, they've been taken out of circulation, and a new material, polymer, it's like a plastic note now. Most people have got these notes now in today's world, right? So essentially, when you look at economics and things around money, paper money has no intrinsic value, right? It has no real value because it's not backed by anything. So sometimes you see these banks or these governments, when they undertake policies, for example, quantitative easing, they can then print, they got the printing press, they can print out loads of money, loads of notes. And that's what's been happening if you look at the economy. And that's why today we've got a lot of inflation, because some of these kind of entities, governments, have been using the printing press, getting loads of money printed, and then obviously that's now going to catch up. So here in the UK, we're looking at a real estate meltdown. There could be between maybe 5 and 20% drop in house prices coming up, with mortgage prices increasing. The Bank of England, I think it was only last week, increased interest rates to deal with inflation. So all these things are brewing up in terms of the current economy, the recessions, potential for depression. And this could go on for like a decade, right? And in 2008, a lot of people were wiped out. However, a lot of people became millionaires. You need to be careful and you need to be looking now for opportunities, because opportunities will come. A lot of people are going to become millionaires during this period. There will be a time to buy, and that's something that you got to look into. So I was talking about gold. Now, gold is a material that's been used for, thousands and thousands of years throughout human history, right? It's been a medium of exchange, and it's been coveted amongst ancient empires. The Egyptians used gold. You see, for example, the Tutankhamun death mask is gold. And, some of the ancient Persian, Babylonian kings, their palaces were draped in gold and marble. So gold has always been something that is such a material, like, you got the California gold rush that people have always wanted, and it's acted as a medium of exchange, right? So gold right now is something. The thing with gold is you can't really get passive income, but it does act as a store of value. So if you buy some gold, for example, you put £5,000 or £10,000 or £1,000 into gold, maybe a small gold bar, for example, or jewelry that you keep, that will essentially hold its value for a period of time, and it's a good store of value, but it's not going to give you monthly kind of recurring income like, for example, having a house on rent would do. Okay, but gold is really there to act as a store of value. I've purchased gold, and the reason I purchased it was essentially that, to basically store and preserve the value of the money, because I understood that every day that goes by, every week, every month, every year, the paper money is decreasing in value and my money is losing its spending power. So I need to look at investing it so I can, hold up on that investment, and also the value of my, currency and wealth, so that I can eventually move towards generational wealth. So gold is something that I invested in as a medium of storing wealth. Now, something else that you can look at is stocks and shares. So stocks and shares, in the FTSE 100, you've got like the S&P 500, which has the top 500 companies around the world. A lot of people invest through various entities such as Vanguard, and they use these kind of middle companies to invest. And you can purchase stocks in individual companies, but that can be volatile because you never know when a company is going to drop in value. Or you could put money into S&P 500 index, and basically you'll have top 500 performing companies. Normally over years, you might get like a 7, 8, 9% return. I mean, with that, a lot of people basically talk about investing when they're young, so like when they're like 20, and then investing over a long period of time, and then having a large lump sum at the end, right? So I'm currently looking into that at the moment in terms of looking at S&P 500, whether it'd be worth investing something on a monthly basis. So I will feedback on that once I've gone through that process. But and a lot of people that have invested in stocks in different companies, and some of those stocks have grown, but a lot of the time stocks can decrease in value with the situation depending on the marketplaces, such as financial crashes and world events. So that's something to be careful about because it is quite volatile. Another thing that you could look at investing in is real estate. Now, real estate properties, I do have a real estate company and I am involved in real estate. So if you have money, so if you've basically been working in a primary job, or if you've got 2, 3 jobs, or if you've got a side hustle, or you're an entrepreneur and you have made some money, you could invest into purchasing properties. So you could buy a apartment, you could buy a condo, you could buy a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house, and then you can put it on the rental market, and you could have people renting it from you, and then you can generate a monthly revenue from that. As a landlord, you do have to be aware of certain issues. So, for example, the current law in the locality that you're based in. So with renting properties, you've got to look at the tenants, because sometimes you might not get the best tenants. They could wreck your house as well. So it could work out negatively. So you've got to have due diligence. You've got to have, your basically checks, and make sure that they've got guarantors and that kind of stuff in place. Okay, you could use a management company to manage your properties and real estate for you. So they could basically do the checks, get in the tenants, and then you could also have insurances to safeguard against any kind of issues or problems that you might have. Yes, that will obviously eat into the profits, because the management company or the real estate agents will take a cut of the monthly rent. But generally speaking, when you have a property and rent, so for example, if you've got £500 rent coming in on a 2-bed property, it's like £6,000 revenue over a year period. So what you should do is try and get contracts which are 12 months if possible. So that will obviously allow you to have somebody in place for a longer period of time, and then they could always renew and so on. And then so you can generate revenue. I think it's this recurring revenue on a monthly basis. And then, that is a potentially a good investment, particularly if the capital and the property itself is increasing in value over time. The last several years, for example, in the UK, in Europe, in the Western world, even in places like Dubai, property prices have shot through the roof, and, it's amazing the amount of increases that have occurred due to property prices increasing and the value. And it's just started to slow down now in the last month or so here in the UK because of the issues that we mentioned earlier. So this is something that you could look into. Okay, another kind of form of investment might be crypto. Again, cryptocurrency, in the last decade or so, Bitcoin has become very popular, but it is again a volatile kind of entity you have to be careful about, because there's a lot of like pump and dump kind of schemes out there. People coming in with large social media followings or getting influencers, and then they releasing a coin, and then over a very short period of time, people investing, and then they're at the top, and then basically it's a dump. They take all the money and disappear. So do be careful. I mean, the top cryptocurrencies currently is basically Bitcoin, which is by far leading the pack of cryptocurrencies. But people are investing in blockchain NFTs right now, and the future does look like a digital future with the fourth industrial revolution and how things are moving forward. Okay, so obviously Bitcoin was reaching $50,000 plus only months ago, and obviously if you got in early, you could have become a multi-millionaire. In terms of the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but Bitcoin has recently dropped, obviously with the market in turmoil, but maybe the bull run has come to a slowdown. But in the next couple of years, there might be another bull market and it might just shoot up again. Okay, nobody knows at the end of the day. That's the truth. But obviously, if you're willing to take the risk, bearing in mind it's a volatile thing that, crypto, you may be able to, bear, fruitful returns, but it won't be straight away. It'll be over a period of time. So recently, I've invested in Bitcoin previously. Recently, I invested in Ethereum and Litecoin as well. So I've got some investment in cryptocurrencies. I wanted to have some of my portfolio in cryptocurrencies, just that's something that's there, so it's diversified, and I have got some of my wealth in those kind of entities. I'm not going to put everything in because I don't think that's a good idea, because if you've got everything in one basket, if these digital currencies are wiped out, you'll end up losing everything. So it's good to be aware of the different avenues you could use to invest. Okay, so cryptocurrency is one of those things, that the future is looking towards that kind of realm with NFTs and blockchain and these kind of different technologies that exist today. So be very careful and make sure you spend your time doing due diligence and research to understand what the digital currency markets are. We do know that some of the banks now are moving towards digital currencies in terms of removing paper currency and becoming a cashless society. That is around the corner, and we'll probably do a separate episode about that, but it's something to bear in mind in terms of your wealth and how to secure your wealth and how to secure yourself and your family and your wealth. Okay, and one of the other kind of investment avenues is watches. I'm not an expert in watches, so I mean I do know basically things like Daytona Rolexes. Someone who might have bought it in the 70s, 80s, Rolex watch has increased in value multiple times, and it's always a good investment. You could get some of these Rolex watches for like 20 grand, and then it's something that you hold on to for the long term in terms of getting a return. There was a collaboration between Omega and Swatch recently with the Moon watches. So I was watching an influencer talk about purchasing some of these watches. So I tried to go online and find the range. Now, the range online on the website was basically all sold out, so I couldn't get anything online. I then basically Googled the stores. So I rang some of the stores in London and also other places in Manchester, and then I was told that the only places I could go and get these watches would be in London and Edinburgh, and you could only get a certain amount per person, and you'd have to basically wait because they were out of stock. So you'd have to wait until this item came into the store, and you'd have to be there physically to purchase the item, either in the London stores or Edinburgh. So I was able to buy actually this asset online, and now I'm just holding it and see how that goes as a long-term investment. And like I said, there are high value kind of watches out there that you could look into. But again, be careful, because obviously you need to make sure that these are watches that will increase in value. And the only way you can do that is to do your research, due diligence, and make sure you understand what you're actually getting into. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've just basically gone through 5 different mediums how I've invested my money and my wealth in terms of trying to get long term store of value and to increase my value in terms of the net worth that I have, and in terms of getting a return on my investments. And once again, whenever you're investing, make sure you get professional advice and take a deep look at the things that you're investing in. Be careful when it comes to volatile kind of investment opportunities, because you could get wiped out and you need to be careful. So yeah, so if you are watching on or YouTube, please do leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on a podcast, do leave a review and considering becoming a supporter of our podcast, especially on Anchor. Yeah, so catch up soon.